All the Love by singer-songwriter Kyle September. Playlist it right here this morning on the show. And absolutely fantastic single, man. We, as promised before the break, we're going to have a conversation with none other than Kyle September. Kyle, how you doing, man?
I'm good, thanks, John. How are you, man?
I am absolutely fantastic. Thanks so much for asking. Thanks for being on GQ Radio with us, man.
Oh, it's absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Carl, I know that you've been in the industry for a good couple of years. All right, it's been a while. But there may be some people out there who don't actually know who Carl September is or where the beginning of Carl September's music career started. Could you try to just give us a brief introduction as to how that all happened for you?
Yeah, I'm Kyle September. I'm from Johannesburg. I've been performing for over 10 years now,
Yeah.
mostly up in Joburg, Pretoria, around that side. Every now and then make my way down around coastal regions. And I got into music before I was born, really. My
Yeah.
father was a part-time musician. He would
Okay.
play cassette tapes, I guess, back then. He'd play cassette tapes of like bands that he thought were the best bands around, or he'd play guitar and sing and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he saw it as he's starting my music education early. So um,
Mm-hmm.
that's where it all started, and my love for music only grew from there. Learned to play multiple instruments growing up, um, which then fueled my love for songwriting and creating my own
Mm-hmm.
stuff. I studied a BMUS music degree from Wits School of Arts, um, minor in jazz vocal, major in composition and arranging. And
Okay.
after that, it was heading straight into the workforce, starting to get more gigs and run
Yeah.
events, and eventually recording my own songs and getting it out to the public, like like this most recent one.
Yeah, man. It's fantastic that the story you're telling because I think that a lot of artists don't give their parents the credit. Like you said, before you were even born, the music it was just instilled in you because of. I was picturing baby Carl September in mommy's stomach, like playing the drums, and kicking.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely fantastic, man. Love it. Absolutely love it. And I love the passion that you've got for the music industry, even 10 years and more over and aboard still. So that's absolutely fantastic. Let's get into the single. I know it is your sixth single. Is that correct? All right. Now,
Yes. Yeah.
All the Love. Man, oh man. When I first got this song, I must be honest with you, I listened to this and I was like, damn, wow. The arrangements and everything else it really hits you because it's like it's catchy, but it's also got a fantastic meaning behind it as well. Where did this song come about? How did the song get birthed? Tell us the story behind it.
Yeah. This song's probably the one of the more serious ones I've put out. The inspiration came from, much like most of my songs, really. The inspiration comes from what I observe in the world, what I
Yeah.
see going on around me, and trying to capture that in a
Mm,
piece of art. Uh, so this one was no different in that regard. It was a time, a year and a half, 2 years ago or so, the world just seemed like it was in an absolute mess.
yep.
Everyone was fighting over everything, different cultures,
Mm,
beliefs, political alignments. It was crazy. Everyone just wanted to was at each other's necks, over
yep.
all of these differences. No one was appreciating and celebrating diversity. Everyone just saw it as a threat to their own
Mm,
alignments, and it was a tough time to go through and to observe. I'm sure you and many of the listeners
yeah.
will relate to that. And I thought, Jesus has
Mm,
to stop. How are we going to fix this? And
mm,
I genuinely try to think of solutions of what I could do, what I could put out there
mm,
to help. And I found that I really didn't have any solutions, any specific practical suggestions to
mm,
make. All that I knew was the only route to the answer was through finding love in our hearts for our fellow humans again.
Yep.
to right to society. Without, I strongly believe, and I still do, that nothing you do that isn't done in love will ever produce a solution for anything. And so I wrote the song All the Love to try and basically plead with the world to find it in their hearts and put aside the anger,
Mm,
and be more inclusive of everyone.
yeah. Yeah, no, I get you. And it's nice that you mentioned that as well, because I know like 2, 3 years ago, obviously now look at it back, it's 3 years already when COVID came to South Africa, COVID took
Yeah,
over the world. Things were scary, man. And people, like you said, were at each other the whole time. It was like we were all in our own little bubbles and cages. We weren't let out. And once you started getting social media on board, things started becoming nasty on there because we weren't interacting face to face with people anymore.
mm,
This, like we're doing right now, was what the world was like. And it's
yeah,
like, how do you bounce back from it? Us as humans and us South Africans, especially, we love the interaction, the camaraderie, being together, having a good time, going to a concert, doing whatever together as a group of friends or family or whatever the case may be. And then the whole world flips the script on you, and you look at it and you go, "What's really important?" And I think that is something that a lot of people have battled with, because a lot of us, and myself included, I was working full time when COVID hit. I was doing radio part time. I wasn't doing radio full time. I was doing radio shows maybe twice a week, when I had a free time from my day job. And then COVID hit, and things started looking different to me. And I was like, you know what? I really need to start putting more emphasis in saying that I can change someone's life with. And this is where radio took over full time work, because
absolutely, yeah,
we need to understand that we as humans have our own cross to bear first and foremost, but we've also got that job to fulfill with getting other people inspired. And I mean, our catchphrase at GQ Radio is "Aspire to Inspire."
mm,
So it really is something that we focus on very strongly on the shows and every show that we've got. But I think that's where the song resonates with us. You know, because it's like
absolutely, yeah,
you're trying to put out that love. You're trying to implore people, hey guys, this is a way forward. This is the way to, everyone looks at the word Ubuntu and doesn't even know what it means.
mm,
And as South
mm,
Africans, I think we all know what it means, but we tend to forget it when it's not suiting our needs. I don't know. That's something that obviously I just put out there. I like treading on people's toes, and I'm glad that Carl's nodding on the other side, so he's agreeing with what I'm saying. But
yeah,
it's not becoming a political conversation, guys. That's not what we're saying. We're literally just trying to tell you, hey, this is how we feel. We as humans, we have human rights. We can say, freedom of speech, and that's what it is about. But getting back into the song and the music itself, Kyle, I I love this song, man. I must be honest, I really enjoy this song, and I want to know more about what's going on in Kyle September's life in and around music. Like, are you doing any events now? Are there any gigs that you're currently working on or busy with?
absolutely. Yeah, I'm incredibly busy with gigs. My own gigs through winter have been steady, which is always great. Winter's
Yeah.
always the winter hustle for musicians is always a tricky one. So things are steady. You're doing well. So I'm grateful for that. But over and above that, also coming out of the coronavirus pandemic, I realized
Mm,
just how hard hit the music industry was. I mean, the amount of stages that just
mm,
closed, whether it be music venues,
mm,
restaurants, markets, wherever you'd have regular music. So they were gone. Barely any left standing.
mm,
Entertainment companies closing, people closing their entertainment companies, moving overseas to start again. Because
mm.
if that was your livelihood and it was all gone, what can you do about it? So I
Yep.
saw a big gap to try fill. So I started my own entertainment company this
Yep.
year to try and not only get gigs for myself more regularly, but to also create stages for others and to
Mm,
get others
mm,
more opportunities to perform as well. So I've been very busy this year trying to get into certain spaces to get regular live entertainment going.
Yeah.
And that's weird. It's something I never wanted or never saw myself doing. But yeah, I wanted to just be a performer and a songwriter, and I saw people doing that side of the industry's work, and I was grateful to them for what they did. I thought, yeah, you do you, and I'm going to leave the admin side far behind me and just hit the stages. But no, now I felt a responsibility to do that and to try play my part in getting the entertainment industry back to the heights that before the coronavirus pandemic. I mean, 2019, things were booming. Every weekend, all time of year, there seemed to be a festival going on. Every market space had live entertainment. Every restaurant, there were music clubs popping up everywhere. There were pop-up events on rooftops. It was wonderful. You know, every event had music. I remember performing the likes of like 702 Walk the Talk and the 947 Cycle Challenge. If it was event, there was music. There was and I'm really passionate about getting it back to that stage after it being decimated. So I'm trying to play my part there as well.
Oh, that's fantastic. I like that because I know, I mean, I also, when I left for Cape Town in 2020, I'm actually in the Eastern Cape at the moment. I'm from Cape Town originally. I went back home during the COVID pandemic, obviously, and, when I decided to take radio on full time. But we also decided to try and get some of the local artists in Cape Town into events, even during COVID, because there were still some companies were functioning, corporates and stuff like that, very minimalized once they started opening up and everything else like that. It was a challenge to try and get those kind of events going. I was looking at it and I'm like, I've got like 6 or 7 artists here. How do we get these guys onto a stage? It's like you said, it was hella tough. And it's not just about being tough, it's about also who you know in the industry. Because if you don't know the right people in the right venues, then you're not going to get yourself playlisted there. Unless you are one of the biggest names in the industry itself, you're not going to be even considered to come and portray your talents. Now, is that something that you currently deal with as well with some of the artists, or do you see yourself having that great relationship with the right people in where you want to be performing?
Yeah, it's definitely a networking game, and I've worked hard to create some contacts in the industry over all these years, even when I was simply a performer. But I'm using my knowledge of the performers in and around me in Johannesburg, in Gauteng, and hopefully it keeps expanding because I do know a lot of talented musicians that perform KwaZulu-Natal, Eastern Cape, Western Cape. Using knowledge of those guys and their quality of performance and where they will fit, and finding venues and showing their promo material and saying, hey, I think music could help you here. And for your aesthetic, I've got just the person for it. And using that side of the networking, knowing the performers to get the stages going around different event spaces. It's interesting that you brought up the how things were online and in between lockdown, when lockdown would relax and trying to find spaces for performers. Then that's actually what started Takeover Entertainment, my entertainment company. When the hard lockdown hit, I remember I took probably a good half an hour where I just sat on the couch when it was announced and I was just quiet, and I just thought, oh my goodness. And I knew that the messages were about to run through of all the gigs about to be cancelled, and they did between that night and that morning. I remember within a 12-hour period, I watched 60,000 rands worth of gigs just cancelled, one message after another. And I sat, I took it in, I felt what I needed to feel, and then immediately I just sat up and I thought, cool, what are we going to do? I'm not going to do nothing. Tell you one thing, I'm not going to sit and do nothing. What am I going to do? And I was like, okay, so how can we perform? We can perform online somehow. Didn't know much about streaming at all. Now we all know about streaming. We had to. But in that moment, I thought, I know nothing about this. I know I know some people that do, and I'm going to Google and I'm going to research and figure out how
Yep.
to do this and how to make an event of it, not just
Yeah.
put my phone on in my room and whatever. So I started a social media page called Takeover Entertainment. The idea being taking over people's screens, because we figured out
Mm,
how to cross
mm,
stream, how to share across everyone's social media
yes.
pages that would be involved in like a sort of festival lineup. So I arranged,
Correct.
50 artists over a weekend to perform a certain slot,
Yep.
just online from their phone or whatever setup they had from the equipment they had, to
Mm,
perform a certain slot. But for the length of that event, everything would be streamed on everyone's pages that was involved. So you had, 50 odd
okay.
pages.
Perfect.
Um, so that created a wide audience. And then I got music venues involved. I figured,
Hmm.
well, they're not physically having music. Let me see if they'll be keen on joining this. So where you'd expect to see music around in real life, well, now you saw the same stream live on their pages. And yeah,
Mm,
did quite a few of those, and found some way to get a lot of views, and some performers being
mm,
able to make a bit of money off of tips from certain
yeah.
fans that would have tuned in. And that was the start of it. That was the start of it. As lockdown relaxed, started a bit of a talk
Mm,
show, that I did with Graham Watkins and a few other colleagues,
yep.
and that we streamed and cross streamed across all the profiles that we had there, and we were able to get bigger South African artists in, the likes of
Mm,
Ross from Prime Circle, Khan from
yep.
Parlotones, etc. So now we're talking even bigger viewership, and that was
Correct.
something more real, in like level 3 or so, when we were allowed to have
Yep.
up to like 8 people in a room. So we would do that. Um, we
True
would do
story.
that, and then suddenly lockdown was over. Well, where we could at least go out. We still had those
Yep.
protocols, of course, like stage
Yep.
1, stage 2. Um, and
Mm,
we found that people had screen fatigue. There was still streaming shows going on, but everyone was like, you know what? This is all we've had. So I'd rather go out and see something in my
yes.
real life. I don't want to watch something on my phone
Yes.
again. And so I started brainstorming what I can do to bring what Takeover Entertainment did then and move
Yep.
it into a real space, which is what I've finally got going this year.
That's
So it
fantastic.
was all built on the back, sort of like a butterfly effect of how I've ended up in
Yeah.
this position, where I never
Mm,
thought I'd see myself. It just sort of made sense, one step at a time, moving forward.
absolutely. No, that's fantastic. And I love that story because that is a success story from the darkest of days kind of thing, So no,
Mm.
absolutely fantastic. I mean that's like us as well with the radio. We did that and then that kind of just dwindled around for a little bit because I joined up with some guys in Cape Town that I'd met online. Funny and obviously online. Everything was online back then. And
Yeah.
I think that our visions weren't aligned for. No, it was aligned when we first started. We all wanted the same vision and we still wanted to do the same thing together. But somewhere along the line, their vision decided to go their way, up, and mine was
Mm.
going either west or east. It was depending on which way I was thinking, you know. And yeah, we kind of parted ways in a amicable way. I said, you know what, you guys keep the radio station, keep the traction, keep the platform going with the presenters and everything, just keep on going forward. I'm going to do something different, And it's funny enough, I got brought back to GQ, to the PE area. Something just kept on drawing you back here every single time. I keep coming to the Eastern Cape. It's like I know there's something that's happening here that I need to fulfill,
Mm.
And I'm very spiritual in that sense. And obviously I believe in all those. And I'm like, there's a reason for me being here. And GQ Radio was basically built about 6 months ago, literally. It's
Wow.
still a very, very new baby. It's still, I'm like
Yeah.
the only presenter at the current time that does a full-time show twice a day for 6 days a week kind of thing, just to try and get the traction going. But slowly but surely, the traction is starting to happen. And I mean, I'm having conversations with guys like yourself and some of the others around there. I mean, I've had Carl Dirch on my show 2 weeks ago, and
Mm.
some bigger names as well. So
Yeah.
clearly something is right is happening, but we want to try and get more guys on board with regard to presenting, doing shows, doing little podcast sessions, because I think podcasts are the way to go forward these days with most guys. Do a recording for half an hour, 45 minutes, and then have it playlist somewhere on Spotify or whatever. That's what everyone's doing at the moment.
Yes, yeah.
And I mean, that's the way I think that online radio is going to go forward as well. I don't think a lot of guys want to do live shows like this at the moment, like where we do 3-hour segments, like the old school radio vibes. It's all about just giving the information and getting back out of it. It's like little pop-ups kind of vibe. And I'm looking forward to that challenge as well. But I love the fact that that's happening. I'd like to tap in with that if you're open to it, to actually try and see how we can get the Eastern Cape more involved with regards to your event system as well. It might be something that we could look forward to doing, but we'll chat on DMs and Instagram and everything else like that. I'll hit you up on those. Carl, last minute before we say goodbye to you. Obviously being in the industry for over 10 years and being now part of the entertainment industry on the other side of just other than being an artist, what kind of advice would you give an up and coming muser, man? Like, what could you tell them to look at or look forward to doing, trying to get into the industry?
Yeah, I think winning the battle of the imposter syndrome is the most important thing about being an artist in general, and it's no different being a musician. It's one of those things where you get into it for the love of it, and then as it becomes a career, or as you aspire to turn it into a career, at various stages you start to think, am I good enough? Am I really meant for this? Am I really a musician? Is this just a hobby? Is this just for fun? Should I be building something else in my life? That sort of imposter syndrome is the biggest hurdle you'll face as a musician. And you'll know if you're meant to be doing what you're doing, if your love for it is such that if you're not doing it, you're not happy. That you're always thinking about music, that you're always looking forward to perform, that you're the most alive when you are performing. If that is you, don't doubt it. You're where you're supposed to be. You're right where you're meant to be. You're on the right path. And as you keep doing what you love, you'll get better at it. And if you keep doing that, you will be happy and build a career, and you'll be dedicated to it if you love it. You won't be dedicated to it if you doubt yourself. But if you back yourself and you know it's what you love, the dedication, the practice, the graft, it will carry you through a career. And that's the best advice that I could give any upcoming artist.
I love that. I liked the whole and how truthful that was, because I know a lot of guys look at it and they go, yeah, this is how you do things. It sounds like those very mock ads, when they come to tell you how things work. And it's like, in these 5 steps, you'll be successful. And it's like, okay, let me show you how. Yeah, right. There's no shortcuts. No, absolutely fantastic and absolutely true as well. Kyle, I want to thank you for being part of the show. I want to thank you for spitting some knowledge on the show as well and dropping those knowledge bombs on us as well, so that our listeners and potentially future musers that are tuning in at the moment, listening to this conversation, can really be inspired, and maybe even reach out to Kyle to see, maybe he's got a gig open for you guys, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, I think that will be absolutely fantastic. Kyle, where can our guys get hold of you? Where can our listeners get hold of you if they are keen on maybe getting involved?
Yeah, you can find me on all my socials. That's probably the easiest place these days, dropping a DM on socials. You can find my page there at Kyle September. If you're looking for my entertainment company's page, that's called Takeover Entertainment. If you're looking for either of those on any platform, it's at Kyle September, at Takeover Entertainment, either of those pages on all your social media platforms. My music's out on all your streaming platforms, whether you're on Spotify, YouTube Music, Apple Music. Kyle September is the name there as well as the music videos that I've released out on YouTube. So that's where you can find me. That's where you can contact me, and we can take it from there if you're looking to get in touch.
Absolutely. You heard it there from Kyle September straight away, guys. We're going to go into a music break. Kyle, thanks so much for being part of the show, man.
Thank you so much, John, for having me, and all the listeners that tuned in. I appreciate you more than you know. All the love to all of you guys, and I hope to hear from you guys soon again with one of my next releases. Looking forward to it.
Hey, man, definitely looking forward to that, bud.